So Sony just dropped the FX5 and my feed has been covered with people reviewing it, talking about it, and it's been one of those cameras that I think a lot of us wanted as videographers and people in the creative space. But after using the Sony FX2 for a while, I feel like I'm gonna pause on purchasing the FX5 for a few reasons. And maybe this could be you as well. And maybe you're someone who doesn't need the Sony FX5, and maybe something like the FX2 may be a better choice for you in your everyday creative tasks. Now, I'm gonna go on record and say I do want to purchase the FX5, and more than likely we're gonna purchase it next year when they come up with all the firmware updates and everything like that, because there's still some things that in the drop it's not going to have, I think, like 4K 120 and a few other things. So for me, if I'm going to purchase it, I want to make sure that all the bells and whistles that are going to come with it are already there and I don't have to wait for it later. And as of right now, we pretty much have all our jobs lined up till the end of the year and possibly into next year. So we already know what we need to film and what kind of gear we need. And the FX5 isn't something that we need right now, like desperately. My Sony A7S III can do more than enough. It holds up in low light. And as of right now, it is the best camera for videographers and cinematographers, along with the FX3. And not only that, I recently got the Sony FX2 because part of me was being impatient because they hadn't dropped anything new. And the FX2, after using it at Precision Camera for a couple times, I thought to myself, will be a great upgrade for a second shooter. So before this, I was filming with a Sony A7C, and that was just lagging on a lot of things that I needed, primarily color grading that matches my A7S III. And from a lot of the research I was doing, the FX2 is going to be a perfect color match, which it is. I've already done a bunch of jobs with it. But not only that, it comes with a 33 megapixel camera. So your photos are going to come out phenomenal. And again, I'm going to show you some right now, photos that I've taken with it in the last month. And to me, the quality is phenomenal, crisp. It does really well in bright situations and in low light situations. And so everything that I've filmed with it in the last month is pretty much everything that I'm going to be filming, or at least that kind of style and that kind of lighting. And knowing that this kind of camera holds up this good in low light situations, that this camera performs this well when it comes to photography and videography, is the perfect cinema hybrid camera for any creator out there. And if you're doing stuff for clients that has to do with social media, you're running marketing ads, you're doing Facebook ads, if you're doing stuff for YouTube, even like stuff that you may be doing for larger projects for commercials and stuff like that, the Sony A7S III / the FX3 and the Sony FX2, I think, can do more than enough in what you need. Now, like I said, the FX5 is amazing, and I know that it's going to do really well for our business and probably will start even getting us more and more work. But as of right now, it's not something that we desperately need. And maybe you don't need it either. And maybe if you want to upgrade to a better camera that's going to be lasting you for the next 5-6 years, something like the FX2 is going to be that camera for you. So I want to show you the settings that I like to use when I set up my Sony FX2 for the video work that I do, because I do shoot a lot of things in 24 frames a second, in 30 frames a second, 60 frames a second. And like I said, this camera has been performing really well in a bunch of the low light situations that I've put it in. So I wanted to go ahead and show you guys the settings that I like to use for this camera and show you some of the work that I've done with it and how it's turned out. Now, one of the things that I wish that my FX2 had, that my Sony A7S III has, is that little dial that allows me to go to my memory settings of 1, 2, and 3. And the reason being is because I like to set those up in camera. So if I'm ever filming, I could just turn the dial and I can get my 30 frames a second, I can get my 24 frames a second, I can get my 60 frames a second, I could even get 120 frames a second on my Sony A7S III. And so I'll just turn a dial and get there quick. The FX2, and from what I know, the cinema lines don't have that, but they do have the memory inside of it. So one of the things that I did was I went ahead and I made this button right here into my quick memory button that allows me to access that quickly. So I'm gonna go ahead and show you how that works. So right here, if I press the button, you're gonna see it goes to that setting. And this is what we're about to see on how I like to get my settings set for all my videography work. All right, so like I said, to quickly get to this menu, all I do is press that button that I have saved, and it's gonna take me to my camera memory settings. And so then all I do is go over this way, and as you can see, I have my 1, my 2, and my 3. And so my one setting is set at my 24 frames a second. And again, it's at 422 10-bit. And then I have my ISO at 4000 because this camera has a dual base ISO of 800 and 4000. And so I have that one set there. So if I wanted to go to my 30 frames a second, I could just go to the number 2. And again, we're gonna have our 30 frames a second at ISO 4000. And then same thing, if we go to setting number 3, we're gonna have it at our 60 frames a second, ISO 4000. And on all of them, I have the 180 rule on. If we click on the home button, you'll see that the 180 rule is pretty much, if we're gonna be shooting 24 frames a second, then that's gonna automatically have the shutter speed at that 1/150. And if we're gonna shoot at the 30 frames a second, it'll be at 1/160. And if we're at the 60 frames a second, it will be at 1/120. Now, the reason I did this was to quickly access all these frame rates without having to go through my menus and set everything up on the fly. And the 180 rule, like I said, this saves you so much time from having to change your shutter speed. So once you know what your frame rate is gonna be, whether it's 24 frames a second, 30 or 60 frames a second, it automatically adjusts for that. Now, one of the other reasons that I'm holding off on buying the FX5 is because I'm still being hopeful that they may release an A7S IV or an FX3 Mark II. And if they do, I would rather see what specs they have on those cameras compared to the FX5, because sometimes Sony likes to do that. Like, they'll release a really good flagship camera and then every other camera will come out with those base settings that it already has and maybe a little extra. So that's why I'm holding out for that as well, because you never know. I'm a hopeful guy. Maybe Sony's gonna listen and give us the Sony A7S IV, which would be phenomenal. Another reason being, again, I want to see what a lot of the creators in the space are using this for, what things they're seeing that is working well for them, but also what hindrances this camera has on their everyday creative tasks. Like for myself, I'm filming at least once or twice a week. I film a lot for a lot of companies and a lot of businesses. And so if this is going to help me film things faster and get a better product out quicker, then most definitely I want the FX5. But if it's gonna, hinder my processing on my computer, if it's gonna be a lot of like heavy editing for the editors that I hire out, well, then it's hindering me in delivering to my client the product. Maybe it's gonna take longer, maybe the files are heavier, whatever it is. And so I wanna see what a lot of the creators in the space who are using it right now in the next 3, 6 months to a year, what they're saying about it, how it's improving their creativity or how it's holding them back. And if a lot of these creators come to find out that it is hindering their creative task, then maybe that's not something that I need. And right now, so many people are selling off their A7S IIIs, their FX3s to purchase the FX5. So I've already seen people on Facebook Market selling their FX3s for $2,000, $2,500. And the thing about the FX3s and the FX30s as well is that a lot of people purchase those cameras for podcasting, for interviews and stuff like that. So a lot of those cameras, again, even the A7S III, although because it does photography and it's pretty good, more people use it on run and gun shoots. But the FX3 and the FX30, those cameras primarily sit in studios on tripods. So if you find those for sale, more than likely they're gonna be almost brand new and barely used because they've been sitting in the same place for years on end. So that's why I would rather see what you really need as a creator. What I really need as a creator is a heck of a second shooter, which the FX2 is already delivering on, both in video and photo specs. My primary camera, which is my Sony A7S III, is still performing phenomenally well, especially with everything that I got set up with it. So as of right now, the FX5 isn't something that I need, but it is something that I want. And so, like I said, by next year, once they get all these firmware updates figured out and all these bugs fixed and everything like that, you more than likely will see me holding it up. I'm probably going to be smiling really big when I get it. And now, I know a lot of people are thinking, well, why not get the FX6? And there's a lot of other cameras that Sony already has that perform really well. To me, the one thing that I really do love about the FX5 is that they're giving you all of these amazing things in it in such a compact size. In what I do in my everyday run and gun, filming with clients, compact is exactly what I need. I don't want a big thing that's gonna be too hard to carry and all that kind of stuff. I want something that's gonna be easy to handle, easy to move around. And one of the things they did with the FX5 is they added a tilting viewfinder, but you have to buy that extra. to me, anytime I have to buy something extra to put on my camera, more than likely I'm gonna break it or lose it. And there's a lot of creators who are like, oh, I don't like the viewfinder, the tilting viewfinder, it's annoying, this and this and that. I've enjoyed using this viewfinder so much because of the angles that I'm allowed to get with it when I have it up to my eye, and it allows me to see things so much better and so much clearer. So I'm not a hater of the viewfinder. I think the viewfinder is phenomenal. And in saying that, I wish the FX5 had a built-in viewfinder rather than having to buy it separate. But you know, again, it's a primarily only video camera. It does not take any stills. So if you're buying the FX5, the only thing you do is video. You do not do photos. You do not do anything other than videography. And as of right now, like I said, I do both. I do video, I do photos for my clients. And so if I'm gonna get the FX5, I know that it's gonna be a dedicated video camera, which my A7S III already is. But every now and then, clients like, hey, can you take a headshot? Hey, can you do this? Hey, can you get a photo of this? And because I have my A7S III on me the majority of the time, I'm able to say yes. And also with the FX2, shooting 33 megapixels while still performing so well in low light, it's been the only camera I've been taking with me lately. And the lens that I decided to pair with it is the Tamron 35-100. And if you're gonna get this setup, or if you're gonna get this camera, you need to get this precise setup. The 35-100 at 2.8 performs really well, even in low light condition. I'm able to get so much great quality. I know the other one that they have is the 35-150, I think. But because I already have the 135 at 1.8, to me, it kind of felt redundant to get the 35-150 just for that extra squeeze. Because the other great thing about this camera is that it allows you to crop in a little bit more. So again, because you had that 33 megapixels, cropping in just cuts it to about maybe 16, 15 megapixels. So you're still gonna get a really good image, and it allows you to tighten up that shot a little bit more. So again, to me, if you're a creator who does both video and photo, if you want to get into the cinema line of Sony cameras and you don't want to spend $5,000, almost $6,000, because again, if you think about the FX5, just purchasing the body alone is $5,000. We're not even talking about a cage. We're not talking about if you don't have lenses, ND filters. There's so many other things that you need to get with it that it may make it about a $6,000 purchase right out the door, right? You think about your SD cards that you're gonna need for it and all that kind of stuff, microphones if you don't have them. So for me, I would rather advise someone who, again, is either entering the creative space and wants a really great camera that does hybrid stuff, or wants to be a videographer, or even somebody who's looking for a second shooter, to look into the Sony FX2. I had somebody even comment like, why am I spending my time making videos on the FX2 when the FX5 came out? One, because I just recently purchased this and I'm so excited with it. But two, there's a lot of creators who aren't going to be able to afford the FX5. And there's a lot of creators who still use the Sony A7S III or older cameras. And so I'd rather make videos on the stuff that people are actually using and how I actually use it as a father, as a photographer, as a videographer, as a creator who is just enjoying the creative process. Like, that's what I mean. If the FX5 is going to stifle my creative process, if it's going to be hindering me in some way, shape, or form, I'd rather stick to what I already know and create the content I want to create, how I already create it, and just elevate my quality, right? Better lenses or different things that allow me to get different perspectives and angles. So I'm not trying to say you don't need the FX5. Like I said, more than likely we're going to get it. But what I am trying to say is maybe you need something that is going to help you create a lot easier, a lot faster, and things that you probably didn't think you could create. I think the FX2 is a great camera to do that with. I think the Sony A7S III for the low light conditions in your life is the best option. But as a second shooter, or as someone who's entering the creative space, if you're looking for something that's compact, lightweight, does really great video and really great photos, I think this is it. And that's even saying that I haven't even played with the Sony A7 IV, and I've seen some videos on the Sony A7 IV, and I don't really care for the Sony A7 IV. Like, I have become an FX2 fanboy. I've become an FX2 stan just based off of using it for the last month. And I think if you are someone who's looking for a new camera, looking for something different, and you're in the Sony ecosphere, dude, this is like a bomb setup, man. And it looks great, it feels great. Don't listen to people who talk smack about the viewfinder, because it's something that you need to experience yourself, and you need to see how you can use it for your creative outlets. I remember when I started off as a photographer and a videographer, like I had what is it called, obsessive gear purchasing syndrome or something like that. And like every maybe 3 to 6 months, I was buying a new camera, I was buying a new lens, or I was buying something new, because I would watch YouTube videos, and the way that people spoke about these things, I felt like it was gonna help me be a better videographer or whatever it was. And it didn't. It just made things more confusing for me. It wasn't until I started learning, these are the settings that I need for what I want to do, these are the specs that I need for what I want to do. Once I started figuring out my niche, how I like to create and what I want to create, then finding the right camera, the right lenses, the right tools to create those things came after that. And so if you're somebody who's still in the, figuring out your creative niche, if you're still like figuring out your style, if you're still figuring things out in your business, maybe you don't even have a business yet and this is a hobby, maybe you shouldn't get the FX5. Again, maybe an A7S III that's used, that is maybe a couple grand, or an FX2 built out that's maybe $3,000, $4,000 is gonna get you somewhere way further than just having the FX5. It's a beautiful camera, it's phenomenal, but you shouldn't feel bad about not getting new gear. And for the creators who are, flossing the FX5 and like, talking their talk, of course, they're going to be wanting you to buy it. One, a lot of them are paid to make you to purchase it, especially if they have an affiliate link. Or two, they want Sony to look at them. They want Sony to sponsor them. They want, I would love for Sony to sponsor me. I don't know if that ever happened, but a lot of the people who are talking this talk, they want you to purchase it. They want you to be influenced by it, because they also care about the metrics. They also care about the number. They care about the views. And so it's great to watch the videos. I've been binging on a bunch of them, but at the end of the day, you should be happy with the things you create and with the gear you have. The other thing I tell people all the time is, don't buy gear if you haven't already maxed out your current gear. Get to know the gear you have right now. Look at the gear you have right now, the lenses, the monitors, the camera body, all that kind of stuff, and use it to the ability that you cannot use it anymore. And then whatever hindrances that you're seeing in your creative outlet, in your camera, or whatever it is, then look for the camera that fixes that, right? If for me, I was doing a lot of low light videography and photography, and I hated the grain and all that kind of stuff that was coming out, which is why I got the A7S III, because it fixed that situation. But if I was somebody who was just filming like in the daylight all the time and all that kind of stuff, then I wouldn't care about the Sony A7S III. I would care more about ND filters and certain lenses that make things look good. But because I do things in both low light situations and in bright situations, I need a camera that can handle both. Another piece of advice to you guys, learn your style, learn your niche, find the things you like to create, and then build your camera ecosystem around that. Don't build it around your camera. don't say, okay, I got this camera, now let me go find somebody that needs these specs. No, find your specs, find the things you enjoy, and then find the camera that fits that as well. So I hope you guys got encouraged by this. I hope that you guys maybe even are interested in the FX2. Again, I'm not sponsored by Sony. I don't have no affiliate links, but from using it the last month, it's been such a mind-blowing experience about how much I really, really enjoyed it. And, if you're new to this channel, one thing that I'm doing for the next few days, I think I have a little over 20 days until I turn 40 years old. And so what I'm trying to do is capture my last days until 40. And again, having a camera that makes it easy for me to document things, that makes it easy for me to edit things and post things, is what I'm looking for. And so in my journey to 40, there's a lot of things that I've learned in the last 40 years of my life. And one of them has been about photography and videography. And like I said, early on in my career, when I started, to me, gear was everything. I needed the most up-to-date gear. Anything that was being dropped, I needed to purchase it. I needed to have it. And now I'm okay with having out-of-date gear that I know how to manipulate to make it look really, really good. So take that with a grain of salt, however you want. Like I said, if you're new in the creative space, Don't feel like you need to buy the most expensive thing. Purchase a thing that is going to elevate your style, your brand, and then go from there. So thank you all so much for watching. I will see you tomorrow. Catch you on the flip side. Peace out.